All right, you want to pull up that other picture? How often do I think about the Roman Empire? And I know this has been hot. People have been talking about this a lot lately on the internet. And EK and I just had a quick chat about it right before the show. And I said, I think about the Roman Empire maybe about twice a month. The idea of sewers, what they did to sewers, amazing. Changed the world. Sewers and aqueducts, which is basically the same principle. Aqueducts, bringing clean water up high, bad water out low. It was changed the world. That's why a lot of people think about the Roman Empire, because it had a huge effect on Western society. It started turning the ancient world into modern society. It was the beginning of that. So, that's a big deal. And so some people think it's like, oh, I never think about the Roman Empire, and that's fine. I think it just matters that it's the topic of history. I've always found the topic of history very fascinating, and so that's why I think about civilizations a lot. And so because I'm interested in that topic, and because I've studied a lot about history and other ancient civilizations, and I've played games like Civilization, and I've done searches like what does like Inuit mean? Eskimos, exactly. So, it's not like I think about the Roman Empire like twice a month, but I also think about other empires. I think about the Inca. Like this picture here, the Inca, and this is a picture of Machu Picchu in Peru. And these crazy sons of bitches, you know what they did? They built a city on top of mountains. These guys were badasses. What did EK say? He said, this guy, he fell off a mountain. People are whining about their pronouns. This guy fell off a mountain, holding a rock, broke his leg. And they said, you got to get back up there, get back to work. And he's like, but I'm wounded. Can I go back to my wife? And he's like, I don't care if you're 13 or not. You got to get back up there and start working, or else we're going to sell you to the Aztecs, who'll cut your heart out because the sun's blocked out. All right? Because sometimes I think about the Aztecs as well. The Aztecs and their incredible violence. That game where they're throwing heads through basketball hoops, Incredible violence, the Aztecs. I also think about, the Mayans. Since let's stay on South America, I guess. Let's talk about the Mayans, South America, Central America. Let's talk about their cuneiform. I think their cuneiform language is the most beautiful cuneiform I've ever seen. And a cuneiform is kind of like hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics, for example, are a form of cuneiform. It's picture language. And I really like the bubble kind of fonts and pictures. It's almost like they're from the future, and everything's little emojis. Really. Go look into the Mayan cuneiform. See if you can decipher it, because it hasn't been deciphered. Amazing stuff. And so when it talks about the Roman civilization, I think about all types of civilizations. Think about the Mongols riding across the steppes of China, tearing into people. Genghis Khan, just banging everything from west to east in the known world. You know what I mean? Talk about the Zulus, the Zulus, and even into the 19th century, they had the British troops landing with, they got muskets and stuff like that. These Zulus would come running at them with leather shields and spears, messing them up. They fire one volley, and these impy warriors are so damn fast that they're trying to reload their muskets, but they get there after that first volley and just start beating them silly. You know what I mean? There's plenty of interesting topics when it comes to civilizations. Think about the Celts, the Celts and their berserkers. The berserkers, they were the only ones allowed to use psychedelic drugs. They got all the mushrooms, I don't know if they had ayahuasca back then, but maybe they did. But they were the only ones allowed to use it, and they did it before battle. They thought it gave them powers. And it's maybe it did. I don't know. But the human civilization is fascinating, and the evolution of things. Like the Arabic, was Persian societies, inventing numbers. The numbers we use today, 1, 2, 3, 4, all came from Arabic cultures. Modern optics, telescopes. The modern optics, even back in the 14th to 15th century, invented by the Persians, I believe. Or Samaria, maybe? No, Samaria had one of the original religions, There's tons of human history that is incredibly interesting. So people are like, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? The Roman Empire is probably one of the most relevant I think, for when it comes to Western society, because of how it changed cities and stuff like that. Because you got to have water, clean water coming in high, dirty water going out low. And that's what the Romans figured out. But all sorts of societies are very interesting. So I only think about because I've studied more than the Roman Empire. All right. You could also like the Russian Empire. Holy cow! How many times that's changed hands and stuff like that. Flip-flopped all throughout the centuries. Crazy place, Russia. Always been a crazy place. I'm trying to think of anything else. Any other cultures popping out at you? The Tartars, the inventors of the hamburger.
The Tartars, or whatever. Their reach was.
You're talking about the Tartars in North America, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about the Tartars in like Germany and the Eastern Europe. They're horsemen. They're similar to the Mongols. They probably like adapted each other's styles or something like that, but they're similar to the Mongols, and they invented the hamburger. What they do is they take beef and they'd stick it under the saddle and they'd ride on it all day, and they'll tenderize the meat. And then they would, when it's time to eat, they'd just eat it raw. And that's what's called steak tartare. Is like steak tartare is raw meat with garlic and spices and stuff like that. And so that's a dish you can get out there now. And then I think later in like the 1800s, 1830s maybe, some guy at the port of Hamburg was selling these hamburgers, which is between two pieces of bread. And I was eating a hamburger one day, just looking up where hamburgers came from. I was like, oh. And he started selling hamburgers, and then the sailors from America came over. They'd had these hamburgers there, and they're like, oh, this is cool. And so then they came back to the United States. They explained to restaurants what they saw and how they did it, because how hard is it to figure out a hamburger? It just took a while to come up with the first one. And so he came up with a hamburger, and so they started calling them, from Hamburg, so they're hamburgers. The origin of the hamburger. So that's why, I'm a fan of history. I'm a fan of like civilization and human civilization. Don't like the people, the living ones, too much. I'm that guy in that there's a reality where I'm an archaeologist, or I'm just so happy I don't have to deal with living people. Just dig them up, find out more about them that way. You can find out more by talking to somebody. I'd rather just study your bones. So it's not that weird, because I'm an outlier when it comes to people who think about civilization. I think about civilization more than other people.